Well, hi everybody, welcome. Um, Eileen's not available today, so I'm back as your host, which is fine. I love being here. I love seeing everybody's faces and saying hello. And we're talking about the Educational Associate degree today. And I want to introduce you to Brian Welch. Nobody knows him. He's just an absolute anonymous kind of person. You may have met him once or twice, but just in case, that Brian Welch is going to be taking over as the chair. He's going to be my co-chair this year, but functioning pretty much as the chair this year of the Educational Associate degree program. So he's the one that's going to kind of be handling most of the things with a little bit of whatever assist he needs. And knowing Brian, it probably won't be an awful lot because he seems like he's extraordinarily capable. So we're here to answer any of your questions, kind of talk about the deadlines this year, talk about the process, talk about the topics that you can write about. And we have a number of people here. Joe Campanelli's here. Dennis Chamberlain's also here. Who else is here that has their educational associate degree? I think a couple more maybe coming in who do. And we're here to encourage you to think about it. Maybe, this might be a great time to do it where you're kind of stuck at home and not doing as much or the kind of work you normally do. This is the degree that doesn't rely on imagery. This is strictly a paper and your qualifications. So, oh, Joe, sorry, Joe. Yep, you have the fellowship, not the EA. Sorry. So that's kind of a really nice option for people to have. This is the one that's aimed at people who are very interested in sharing information with other people and getting out there and teaching and speaking and writing and communicating about photography. You have to have your craftsman degree in order to apply. You need to have 30 additional speaker merits, writing merits, or what's the other word? There's another word. They're speaker merits, basically.
Yeah, they're just speaker merits.
Yeah, however you get your speaker merits. If you get an article published in PPA magazine, a lot of times it comes through as a speaker merit or a couple of speaker merits. So those count towards this. But you need 30 additional speaker merits beyond your craftsman degree as a member of ASP, plus 3 years of membership in ASP right before you apply in order to apply. And then the paper is a minimum of 4,000 words. And what can we talk about? What can we write about, Brian? Is there any limit to the number of subjects and topics that people could write about?
Well, it's got a broad definition to it. So it's basically something, excuse me, a unique view on photography, or something that you can share from a unique perspective that will kind of enlighten people on a topic. And so I love the fact that it's not just super defined. Ella, you mentioned that it doesn't require photography in it, but it requires creativity. And so if you are a photographer and you say, I'm not good at writing, but you're good at creativity, give it a go and find a topic that's interesting to you, because if it's interesting to you, you'll do the research. If it's interesting to you, you'll take the time. And from experience, it takes time, and it takes being, not just sitting down and cramming a paper on creative writing. This is a little bit more nuanced than that. It needs, all the bibliography and the support material and the making sure you have things, done right. And so I think the biggest thing is find a topic that you are passionate about, but that's unique and creative and will make people read it and then apply it. So it's a really cool opportunity to kind of say, what is the story or the message that I've wanted to tell from my unique perspective as a creative photographer? And this is your place to kind of, I don't know, throw your best wordsmithing out there. It challenged me more in some ways than photography challenged me. I think that we've done that more. Writing a technical paper like this really, really challenged me. But the reward was when Ella gave me the phone call and we talked. I was just like walking back and forth on the deck and as happy as I've been with any news in a long time. So I encourage everybody to kind of just go for it.
You said one key word in there, Brian, that I want to touch on, and that word is research.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not just an opinion paper. This is a
Right.
research paper. So you want to talk about what that means?
Yeah, and I think that this is the place that my fear came from. So I've written a lot of articles, opinion articles, whether it's for Tether Tools or PPA Magazine, but this was different. And so there are the guidelines, the MLA handbook and the guidelines in there. But really, when you're making a point, try and find a reference point, whether it's truly a scientific journal or it is another article. If you know me well, I read a lot of books. And so a lot of my topics, maybe it was something that Seth Godin said, and it was on chapter 5, page 3. And so I was able to take that quote, elaborate on it, but I had to give reference to Seth Godin and the book and, do it properly. And that was one place that I had to spend a lot of time on, just making sure all those things were done correctly. But the research is fun. And that's, again, if the topic isn't something you're passionate about, you won't do the research. And the research is really what separates this from just here's my opinion. So dig into that. There's lots of information. I'm a Googler myself, so I have asked Google lots of different questions on best practices for these different things. And then, like Ella is saying, I mean, there's some of us that have already gone down that path. If you have questions, send us questions. But that research was my fear, and I had to overcome that fear to actually do the work. But once that was out of the way, it was just me being persistent.
I have a question. I'll get to you in a minute, Chris, if you don't mind. But I have a question just because I know you've been around the country for the last couple of years speaking about the 12 elements, and that was
Right.
the topic of your paper. Which
Yeah.
came first, the research and the paper idea, or the speaking about that particular topic?
Well, so the idea and my paper was on using the 12 elements for business and life. So it's beyond what we think of them as, creativity and style and composition and center of interest, strictly from competition. I was basically saying I want to have a business and life that has impact, where I get to use my unique creativity and style and storytelling. And so that came to me as a book. So as a full on, and this is maybe it's just an Amazon bestseller, but maybe it's someday a New York Times bestselling book. But it came to me as a book. But I realized I'm not good enough just to come out of the gate with that. So I started doing, I guess, some of the mind mapping and brainstorming that I do, and came up with the mind map, and that led to kind of structure. So then I had the structure, and I started speaking on it, found that people enjoyed it and that it made a difference. But I hadn't really, in my opinion, made it my own yet. And that was one of the ideas with the Education Associate paper. Now it's a accepted paper on this topic. It gives me even that much more credibility. So it was always in the arc. And now that I have that, the next step is to write the full on book on it. So it fit into the arc. I couldn't go straight there. The speaking helped kind of, the ideas, like probably I've been in each of your states, and given that program, they're all slightly different. And I found things that made more sense, and some things that everybody just stared blankly at me. And it's like, okay, that's probably not going to be in the paper. And so I think and even I know when I spoke in Maryland, Chris, you gave me really good feedback on my program. So I think it's those kind of things. If you have a program you're already passionate about, maybe you can nuance that into the paper, take that feedback. But to answer your question directly, the paper was part of the journey of this topic. It wasn't the beginning or the end. It was kind of in the middle. But now I feel like I can say I have a published or a accepted paper on this topic. It just, for me, makes it seem like I didn't just whip this up overnight.
Chris, you had a question?
Yeah. Can the research for the paper be your own research, original research on the topic?
That gets problematic because you're really not referring to any outside sources. And we actually had a paper that was turned down this past year because of that very issue. The person applying wrote a wonderful paper, and it was really extremely thorough and well written. And the person had written other things that were published, and yet she referred basically to her own writing and didn't go back and kind of mine where she did the research for that original writing in order to cite those outside sources. So it has to be citing outside sources at some point. I mean, you've got your information from somewhere. So,
and if you do start with a basis in research from outside sources, can your own research on the topic that occurs to make your points be included then?
Yes, yeah. But be careful of keeping your anonymity, because the judges tend to be a little picky about the fact that it's supposed to be anonymous.
Oh yeah, I think that, yeah.
Somebody's got some background noise going, so just, okay, I think it was you, Joanne, so I just muted you. That's okay, it's okay. Great to see you here. Yeah, just be a little careful of that. The year I applied, actually, the person that was handing the paper, what happens is the papers get submitted to the chairperson. So the papers will, this year they'll get submitted to me, but I'll forward them to Brian. He will forward them to the judges after the name is redacted. The name on the paper is taken off, so it's anonymous. And the year I applied, the chairperson actually forgot to redact the names, and one of the jurors actually didn't want to pass my paper or had an issue with the fact that it wasn't anonymous and came back at me about that when it really wasn't my fault at all. But that's how fussy the judges are about keeping it anonymous, that if they're judging it, they're EAs, they know the process or remember at least part of it, and they know it's supposed to be anonymous. So that was the other issue with the same person who applied, was that by citing their own work and talking about it as their own work, they blew their anonymity. And we all know who that person was without the name being on the paper. So that kind of rankled a couple of the judges and lessened their estimation of the paper.
So one of the things you're saying is that if you do use your own research, it needs to be unpublished research.
It can be published, but just don't refer to it as I wrote this.
Oh, okay.
This is my work. I published this book and I'm citing my own book, kind of thing. You can say, this was cited in Chris Richmond's tome on whatever it is,
okay,
but just don't say that it's yours. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah. Keep it.
Yeah. As an example, in my paper, I referenced the article that Brian Welsh wrote in PPA Magazine.
Yeah.
I just didn't say it was my article in PPA Magazine.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same situation, and that's what I did.
Yeah, perfect example, guys.
PPA Magazine, yeah.
Thank you. Dennis, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
It was good. To me, it was a little bit different in that my paper I had really been working on without having a goal or initial goal of it being what it turned out to be for 10, 12, 15 years or so, because it was a subject, creativity basically, that I was very interested in from way back. So I was always kind of sort of working on this, and then once I realized that, hey, this is what I should do, and I should, apply for the EA degree. And so then it really took a lot of editing. I had so many notes of so many things, and trying to put those into a logical order that flowed and made any sense was really the challenge. So I had all the information for years in advance. It was simply an endeavor to try to put it into something that was in logical order. So for me, it was the last step really was getting my last writing merit, speaking merit, because I was one short. So I pretty much had the paper done and was working. So I like everything else, I do it backwards, I guess.
Very cool. I have a question about the deadlines and what the process is. And first of all, the deadline for the application and the application fee is July 1st. And then the application for the paper is August 15th. And the reason there's a length of time between the two is because once we get the applications and know how many people are applying, then we go out and we find the judges. We know we have enough people to judge. We know we have people to judge. We know that, we're going to have a certain number. We can tell the judges how many papers we're going to have for them. And that way they can allot time to do the judging. We can also then at that point say, okay, we're giving you a month to judge these papers, or okay, we're giving you 2 weeks to judge these papers if we've only got a few. So I hope that answers your question. I think that was Chris about the difference between the initial deadline and the later deadline for the paper. It's just so we can organize the jury and get those all arranged and know how many are coming in, and make sure that we give the judges enough time to thoroughly read and evaluate the papers. Okay. And you would be a great candidate. You're a lifelong teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
He actually has a follow-up question here. It says, with anonymity in mind, can we know who's on the committee so that we can avoid speaking to them as we prepare research and write? So maybe you can answer that one, Ella.
No. No, you are not, no one is allowed except for Brian, me, and the president of ASP to know who is on the jury. So there will be 4 EAs, 4 people who've already received their educational associate degree. You can know that I am not going, as the chairman, not going to be one of the jurors. Brian is not officially the chair this year, so you cannot know that he isn't going to be a juror this year yet. So he may be, he may not be. But any of the other EAs could be on the jury to judge the papers. And if there's a conflict of interest, then when I ask them to be a judge, they will tell, or when Brian asks them to be a judge, it's up to them to tell us, no, I've been helping this person along. I wouldn't be able to judge it independently without some bias. And therefore you should probably pick someone else this year. Okay. So go ahead.
I think it falls in line a lot with PPA judges, judging districts or IPC and helping people with their images. We can answer general questions, but when it gets into specific topics or how-tos, I think it's one of those things. Sometimes you're like, well, I really want your help on this. And if you had to DQ, I would be okay. But at the same time, if you value their opinion, you actually probably want them judging your paper. And so I think it's kind of using that mentality, general questions that don't, get attached to a topic, a specific thing. And forums like this, I think this is a great way to, come on these calls and have everybody ask questions, and hopefully it answers somebody else's indirectly, is a great way to keep your anonymity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Terry's asking, I wanted to make sure I understand, do you have to have 3 years of membership at the time of application? Yes, you have to have 3 full years of membership in an ASP immediately prior to your application. So you can't have like 1 year in 2001 and then rejoin and have 2 more years just before you apply. It has to be 3 years just before you apply, full years.
Consecutive.
Yeah. And it doesn't, if you have just gotten your first free year of membership because you've just gotten a degree, for instance, then it wouldn't probably be, in that case, it would be really hard to get your craftsman and get 30 merits beyond that. But if you happen to do that, then that first free year would count as part of your 3 years. So, hey, Bob Coates, good to see you.
Hey,
Hello,
sorry
Bob.
about that.
Bob.
I read the thing. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
I read the thing as mountain time. I'm in mountain time,
Yeah,
but we're the same as West Coast time.
Brian and I are on the same jury, so we were kind of wondering about that. That's okay, though.
Yeah, we were saying that
Okay,
it's
so
good that there's not long division in the time zone equation.
What all
It's
be-
just, can I count forward or
hell.
backwards like 3? And I'm usually okay.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah, go ahead.
this is Mike. I'm fairly new to ASP. What if you decide to get the associate, then maybe get something else? Because I don't know what's going to happen in the years to come. Because I'm fairly new with ASP. And
What was the first part of that question again, Michael?
the question is, you may decide to get the associate degree, but then you may decide to get something else because of issues or whatever. Is that, then I don't know what's going to happen. Because I also did sign up to have a working advisor on this too.
Right. Yeah. So, and I will be talking a little bit about the mentor advisor program in just a little while here. But, I think it's one of those things, if I understand your question correctly, and one of the beautiful things that you said is, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I don't think any of us do. Right. So just make best plans and start the process. So the fact that you're new to ASP and you're thinking about this is really cool, because there's sometimes a stigma with, well, I'm not, I don't know enough yet, or I don't have, enough experience. Like, start as soon as you can, then check off the 3 years, then boom, you've got that requirement. Get this speaking beyond your craftsman, the 30, that's a number that doesn't come easily. So you earn your craftsman, which is usually 13 speaking merits and the rest service. You have to get 30 more on top of that. And so, that could take 3 years or more, depending on, how much time, effort, and energy you want to put into it. And all along the way, be thinking of a topic and writing on it. It may be one of 7 topics that end up being your paper. The other 6 may be PPA magazine articles or ASP magazine articles. I'm sure ASP wouldn't mind having more articles for the newsletter. Throw some of those things out. Who knows which one will actually be? So the fact that you don't know the future yet is perfectly fine. Just keep checking off boxes. There's a lot of boxes to check, but the fact, again, you're doing this when you're fairly new to ASP, I think is encouraging versus saying, well, unless I've been a member for 10 years, I'm not ready.
Well,
you're ready.
It's called Fine Art Photography with Natalie Orit. I can't pronounce her name. But I did the exercise. When I started to write about my photography, I felt a little cold. But then once I did some writing, I felt better. That's all. And I learned a lot from that class.
Nice.
Good.
One kind of going back on that topic of when you're ready to do this, so in my junior year of high school, I had this English teacher that loved the red pen. She loved the red pen so much that I said, I'm not a writer. And it really impacted me for a long time. It was probably the area that I had the least confidence in. And so for me, this paper and the acceptance of the paper was as much a personal challenge as it was a professional challenge. And again, we all have our little places maybe that we say we're not as good as, and we look at all of our peers in ASP. It's a really cool group of people who have proficiency. And we can go, oh yeah, I can't do what Chris Paulus does in retouching, and making faces out of nothing. I'll never be able to be that good. I don't have to be as good as Chris. I just have to, try and be as good as I can be. And we have support right here. I mean, the knowledge on this call right here is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that was also not a writer in high school at all. I had never gotten more than a B probably in an English paper in high school. And yet a good deal of my time these days is spent writing. So yeah, don't let your high school or previous writing experience define you, because it shouldn't. You can be whatever you decide to be, pretty much. Bob Coates, you had an interesting paper that you wrote. You want to tell us about your experience?
Yeah, I kind of came up with this concept that, knowing more words would make you a better photographer. And I thought, oh, this will be easy. Took me over a year, because I thought that it would be easy to back up. And I ended up taking about a year of reading and researching. And then I got into, okay, well, maybe it's in the eyes and, all these different ways of doing things. And eventually I found my way around to the education neighborhood, where the way people learn was the key to proving my theory, or at least, to my satisfaction, and obviously to whoever read the paper. It's actually a pretty interesting thing, because you can't plan things in your mind if you can't see them. And if you don't have words for those things, then you can't visualize it. So pre-visualization starts with knowing what a specular highlight is, or being able to say soft shadow edge transition and knowing that means, whatever. So having that language makes a big difference. And I think that what happens is we tend to start out and we learn the technical words like aperture and shutter and, how all the ISO and all that stuff goes together, but we don't, we eventually start getting more and more words and building more vocabulary. And I posit that if you build that vocabulary earlier and faster, then you'll become a better photographer in a shorter period of time. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Very cool. Very
Plus,
cool.
you learn the word lexicon when you read Bob's paper.
No, I learned how to use the word lexicon.
There you go. Yes, that's a better way to say it.
Yes.
All right. It's great. Yeah. I was lucky. My paper was a matter of editing. It wasn't so much a matter of writing, because I had just the year before spent the entire year writing my Master of Arts thesis for an MFA program. So in my case, I had to take my whole thesis and boil it down to a length that would be appropriate for ASP, and just the topic that applied to the narrow field. And I was talking about beauty. So go ahead, Bob. Bob?
Yeah, with what you're just saying there, I just wanted to pop this off real quick, because there's a tendency to, as you write, to try and edit yourself. And what you just brought up a point that a lot of people don't understand. It doesn't have to be a finished piece as you go. Just brain dump and then edit, and then edit again, and then edit again, and do another brain dump and combine that and edit again. So writing well is really editing a lot, because it doesn't come out. And it's like your brain goes much faster. So if you're trying to make it look good as you write, that's going to kill you.
Mhm.
And the only reason I know that is because I've been writing a whole lot more. I'm writing for Photo Focus. I'm writing for magazines. I'm writing, that's become a major part of my, my raison d'etre. Is that a good word, or French,
Yeah, that's
French way?
great.
Did I say that right?
Yeah,
But yeah, just doing the brain dump first, and then fix it up and get rid of a lot of the words that you don't need and get sentences and tighten everything up. But just keep brain dumping, and that makes a big difference.
yeah, that
So
is,
along those
Sorry,
lines
needed
too, it
jump in
has
and
to
say
be
that.
4,000 words.
yeah,
So don't just try and write 4,000 words. Write as many as it takes. And like Bob is saying, you're going to take words out. You're going to do a sentence structure or a paragraph. Maybe a paragraph needs to be completely taken out because it's just not going to make the final paper there. I would hate for you to be close to that deadline. This is the pressure I was feeling. In fact, I applied the year before and got close to the deadline, and I pulled my paper and said, it's just not what I want it to be when it's accepted, right? It maybe would have passed, but I wouldn't have been proud of it. So I pulled it and gave myself time. And I don't know how many times I walked upstairs and talked to Kimberly and said, oh, today I feel good about it. And then later that afternoon, I was like, oh no, I got more work to do. And then the next day I would work on it again. So that editing process, like Bob is saying, is critical.
it is. And what Bob said about not editing yourself on the first draft is gold. Take those words to heart, because if you're stopping yourself to edit on the first draft, you're not letting the ideas flow. And that's really, really super important, to just let the ideas flow and then edit after the fact. Chris.
And have non-photographers read it.
Yes.
So I had a draft that I felt pretty good about, and I had somebody read it that wasn't us, right? That knew all the language and those things, and they had a lot of good questions for me. And so I think it's nice to sometimes go outside of our bubble as well.
Yeah. Chris?
So teach a class on creativity, and it's not about art. It's about finding your own place where you are the most creative, and finding this style of thinking about your images that lends itself to your creativity. So I think the same thing applies to writing. So I started working on a paper about a year after I joined ASP, and I was sitting down and writing it. Okay, I've got an hour. I've got to at least get an idea down. And what I found was that's not my style. That my style is at 2 a.m. when I'm about ready to go to bed and I'm tired and my mind is blank, or maybe I've had a glass of wine or something. That's when it's better for me to just turn on my phone and record just the random thoughts, because my speaking can keep up with my thinking faster than my writing could keep up with your thinking. And if that's the way you are, I would explore your style before you even start writing, because you may find that from 8 to 10 in the morning is your best. That's where you function the best. And so that's where you might clear some time for yourself. But learning your own personal style and where and when your creativity is at its peak, and things that will enhance your, taking a 10-minute walk. Does that work for you to get you jump started? Or, does doing something random, whatever it is, I would find that, because then I think when your words come, they're going to be coming more straight from inside of you than, oh, I've got to write something. So the pressure and the stress goes away. So I would just encourage people to understand when and where they're creative, and how they're creative. And I think that'll help the writing.
Yeah,
Well
that's
said.
a great point, because everybody has different ways in which they work. And, a lot of people like handwriting. If I do that, I can't read what I've written, so I type everything. But everybody
watched
has
it.
a different way of working.
I watched a program on PBS on Ernest Hemingway and how he would write. And he said he would write down one sentence and then stop and just think about what next sentence was going to be. He didn't write in a rushed manner. He got the idea first. Once he had that first sentence written down, then all of a sudden the rest of the words would come to him, and he could write it down. But it was very interesting.
It is very interesting. Yeah.
There's lots of fun little antidotes out there. One is that I only write when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, inspiration strikes every day at 9 a.m. So that's for the person that just needs to be structured, because other than that, 2 months will go by and no progress will be made. There's another time where somebody said, I just stare at the blank page. It stares back at me and I say, I have nothing. So we all experience, levels of this. Kind of to what Joanna's saying, there's also this idea in psychology that momentum breeds momentum. So if you try and floss one tooth, you'll end up flossing all of your teeth. So write one sentence. You won't stop at one sentence. All of a sudden, the act of writing will make you write. Just get that first sentence out there. Maybe don't take as much time as Hemingway on it, but you'll find creative writing. Once you start to let the floodgates go, you'll get better and better. And to Ella's point, I also sometimes will handwrite stuff out, but then I get piles of Post-it notes, piles of things. So also find your structure of where you have your ideas, your reference points, and then your writing. Let it free flow, like Bob said. Don't try and edit it as you go. But I had a folder that just had a bunch of information in there. And just recently I opened that back up, and it was amazing that all the work that went into it. So not to scare you with that, but to encourage you that it takes a lot of time, effort, work, drafts, but it's so worth it.
Oh, it is.
My question is, how are we going to get 30 merits for speaking or teaching? I spent 10 years putting on workshops, but it was for the International Society of Technical Educators. So, I mean, that I just put workshops on for people all across the country, but they weren't PPA affiliates. So if it has to be for PPA affiliates, that's the challenge. And I don't know how many merits I got for speaking or teaching to PPA affiliates since I got my Craftsman. But
yeah, so your degree chart will show you. But one of the great things right now with Zoom is, I mean, you could teach in 3 states in 3 different nights. So you could really add up fast, write an article for PPA magazine, do a webinar for PPA. All of that adds up fast. And then you can also, sign up and be one of what we used to call Super One Days. Now they're called something else. I can't remember. Sorry. But you can teach 2 of those each session. So that's 8 speaking merits right there. So if you think about it, if you did that for 3 years in a row, that's 24. Write a couple articles, you could hit that 30, but you may already have some, piled up. So look at your PPA merit chart. This is what I do. And I go, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I need to go. How long, will that take me? And then be writing all along the way, right? You don't have to have the 30 to start writing. I think that's the thing is some of you may still need 20 merits, speaking merits beyond your Craftsman, and that might take you 2 years. Well, in 2 years, then you'll be, on this call talking about the accepted paper. Don't wait 2 years to start writing it.
Another example of Zoom being so great is that I drove to Tennessee and did a circuit of three different cities in order to get speaking merits. I also walked to school in the snow, by the way, when it was 5 degrees out. So anyway, I just want you to know.
Uphill both ways.
Yes, but it is so much. It is now. I mean, I've got the merits behind me, but the last few, Zoom really did help out. So yeah, Zoom has really changed the game. I really don't think, Joanne, that you're going to find it as difficult as you might think.
Yeah, if you present a program for us on Thursday, that's a speaking merit.
Yeah.
These Thursday Zooms, it's a speaking merit for the speaker. So there are so many options these days, Bob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, PPA has the affiliate list. So you can market, just as we market ourselves to do anything, you can market yourself to the affiliates and present a couple of, say, hey, I can speak on this, this, and this. When do you want me to, take care of it for you? And because you don't have to now travel necessarily, and a lot of people are even still doing hybrid programs and stuff, you'll be able to do it from the comfort of where you are right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And once you start speaking a bit more, your name gets out there as a speaker and the speaking opportunities start coming to you as well. So that's the other thing that happens.
Hey,
So
Brian, is there a time limit for the merits, or is that?
No real time limit. Basically, it's once you get your craftsman, that's kind of when the clock starts, so to speak, if you want to use a time limit analogy. And it's just 30 beyond that. So it is that is, I think, really good. It's a healthy number. I like the fact that ASP's degrees are really built on going above and beyond the baseline, so to speak. I mean, to get a fellow of ASP or the EA, it's a process beyond getting your master's in your craftsman. And I think that's really rewarding.
it means more.
Yeah,
It's not so easy.
that's worth thinking about. Maybe definitely pursuing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a webinar for Marathon on photographing children with special needs. And I don't think that I got a merit for that, but that's the kind of thing that I know that I could do to teach.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Joanne, I will send you a link. But so everybody, there is a page called PPA Affiliate Speakers. And it is a great place to put out the fact that you have a program on this topic and that you would love to speak. Chris is probably doing this as well as anybody right now. Basically, what he did is he said, I gave this 2-hour program, and he listed, the 5 places he gave it. And now people are like, oh, we want you to give it to us as well. So once you've given it somewhere, it shows, okay, you can do it. And then you'll find people need programs, and especially something on special needs is a unique topic. It's not the same thing we hear all the time. So find that page on Facebook. It's, again, is it PPA Affiliate Speakers?
Yes, it is on Facebook.
Yeah. And list the fact that you are wanting to, speak, and maybe even put in there that you're wanting to earn additional merits beyond your craftsman for your ASP Education Associate. And that will be that, I think, putting that in there will perk up every affiliate's ears. Like, okay, this person is a serious speaker, not just I'm trying to earn my first merit. So I hope that helps.
So I am part of a Facebook crowd, Affiliate Speakers. I may email them about that. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and the affiliates do go on there and find speakers. So Ella, is it all right if I do a little plug for the mentor program?
Yeah, give me 1 minute. I just wanted to say, I just put Eileen Harding's email address in the chat. And if you are interested in putting on a Zoom for ASP and earning a speaker merit that way, get in touch with Eileen. She's putting together the list for speakers starting, I think we're booked through May, but she'll need speakers after that. And then I've got my email in the chat as well if you'd like to write an article for the magazine. We're looking for articles for the next issue of the magazine. The last issue just came out, so we're always looking for new and exciting ideas for writing, and that gives you exposure, exposes you to a lot of affiliates who are in charge of getting speakers for their organizations as well. Gets your name out there. Brian, what about the mentors? What would you like to tell us?
Yeah, so it's fun. Another hat that I get to wear is being the chair of the advisor slash mentor program. So it was called advisor. Now it's the mentor program, which is a huge value element to your ASP membership. The fact that we have such a quality group of members, and you can get a mentor by signing up. But the thing I want to really stress is being a mentor, not just getting a mentor, but being a mentor. So right now, in looking at signups, we're about 3-to-1. So I have 3 times more people saying I want help than I am seeing people say I'm willing to give help. So I really want to encourage you. I was kind of thinking, how can I illustrate this? And there is a series of commercials. I don't know if you've heard them, but it's basically it's talking about the fact that this dad is in the hospital with a broken arm because he, busted a window out and all these different things, and the kid is laughing. And it was, you don't have to be a perfect parent to be a foster parent. You don't have to be perfect to be a mentor. And so if you're thinking, I have nothing to share, there's no way I could be a mentor, it's probably a good thing to sign up and be a mentor and show the fact that you have so much knowledge. Everybody on this page has some sort of degree from PPA. Maybe it's craftsman, maybe it's in Masters of Photography, but you have something really good that you can help somebody else out with. And that is one of the most rewarding things. I mean, I think that's my love language, is service to others. I would encourage everyone to say, yes, I can step up and be a mentor. And it's so rewarding. So the deadlines for all of this is coming up even faster. So next Wednesday, April 15th is the deadline. And I would love to not have to make a bunch of phone calls to recruit those mentors. Now, some of you might be getting a phone call anyway. I'm going to look at what people are requesting. And if it's a topic that I think that you would be really good at, you may be getting a phone call from me saying, hey, I could really use a mentor on this topic. So, and if you don't want to talk to me on the phone for that conversation, just sign up and become a mentor. But let's all help each other as much as possible. This is a huge member value benefit of ASP. I think it's probably one of those programs. I mean, everything the board in ASP has stepped up this last year has really taken ASP up 10 notches. I think this is one that is flying under the radar a little bit. So jump in, go on the website. There is a link on there. Some of the dates aren't 100% accurate, but just know this, that the deadline to sign up is April 15th. And then May 1st is when the actual process starts. And so in that, those 2 weeks in between, I'm going to be partnering people up. But sign up and, hey, it goes both ways. You can sign up to get a mentor, but if you do, also try and find it in your heart to become a mentor. So that's my little sales pitch there on that.
What's the commitment, Brian?
So there is a commitment. Yes. It's 10 hours and you get to figure out exactly how you use it. It's not, every week. It's not 10 hours, in one day. I guess it could be. I mean, it could be if you feel comfortable and somebody's close and it matches up, that they could come to your studio for a couple hours and you could show them something and then do the rest on Zoom. That relationship, how you structure those 10 hours is up to you. But yes, it is a 10-hour commitment. So for instance, I believe Ella, you one time said you charge $50 normally per hour for coaching. So, I mean, if you were partnered up with Ella, I mean, think about this, that would be a $500 value. That's part of your membership. And by the way, the committee's going to do the matching up. Yes, you could request somebody, but everybody will request Ella or Bob Coates, right? So I can't necessarily put everybody with just those two people. I have to spread it out a little bit. So, give a few different things that you're looking for help on. But everybody, I think, should be a mentor. I just feel super strong about that. It is everybody has the skills and knowledge to help someone else. We just do in this group. I'm so confident of ASP. Please sign up and be a mentor. It'll be rewarding.
Yep. And as Bob Coates just said, you learn by teaching. And boy, that is so true. Every time I teach a class, I learn something new that I don't know. So it's just amazing.
And I talked about this the other day when John kind of did that program for the mentor program. My student actually took my information and did better with it than I was doing. I mean, it was like I was teaching marketing, and then on the next call, she would talk about how she just had, all of these new clients and sales. And I was like, okay, what is it when the student becomes the master? I was like, okay, I need to now turn around and take my own marketing class from my student, because they actually applied it better than I was. So that was like really humbling and super exciting.
And it's a huge wide range of topics. I mean, we've had everything from Photoshop and image correction and getting ready for competition, to marketing, to running your business, setting up your studio. Go spend a day with Tony Corbell, for instance. That was on the table last time. John Harrell is an expert in financial planning, and he offered advice on setting up your retirement and how to transition into retiring. And it's really amazing amount of topics, amazing range of topics that have been available through this program. So I don't think that, as well as offered in this program, Chris, you offered a program too, didn't you, if I remember correctly? Chris Paulus? Okay, you should, on restoration. Would love to have a program on that, right? That'd be awesome. So yeah, what a fantastic thing that would be. There's so much out there, so much talent in this organization, and so many interests. It doesn't have to be specifically the tried and true topics that you think of when you think of a speaking topic. So, and
it can actually be a hybrid. So one of my students, I was doing half of the time we talked about marketing and business and sales and image competition.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So you get to structure that again when you fill out the application, list the things that you're looking for. And then part of the committees, just right now, because we're so upside down on the 3-to-1 ratio, that's where I'm going to be probably calling some of you saying, hey, there's this person, and the 2 things they want to learn is perfect for you to teach. So hopefully you'll all be nice and not turn me down if you get that phone call.
Sounds great. I want to check and see if there are any more questions about the Educational Associate degree or the mentor program. I'm not seeing.
Ella, my experience. Ella.
Hi, Maz.
My experience when I was hungry for my merits, I flew to USA. In 7 days, I got my 14 merits, and it was people like Ernie Johnson. They put me through all the different things. Every night I was just speaking. Started with 20, and the world went around. And my last seminar was about 130, 140 students. So, it's possible that you can do it very fast if you like to.
Wow, that's great. That's really cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Maz.
Yeah. And if you come to my studio, the new studio here, Bob, you will enjoy it. We're just building up a new studio in a 12 acres land.
Nice. And he's talking about England, right?
Yep.
Yep.
you got your COVID, so you can come to England now.
Excellent. That sounds great. Any more questions out there? Remember, Brian and I are your contact people for the Educational Associate degree. Brian is your contact for the mentorship program. And any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or any member of the board. And we are so happy to have you here.